I couldn't work on poor Pickle if I wanted to. Can't even get to him. God. Gotta get this place cleaned up. Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back. We are finally officially on the Ranger Camper pop-up restoration. Rebuild, whatever you want to call it. Completely build. I think we're down to the completely build conclusion now. But we have started kind of ripping stuff out. I've taken all the trim around the edge. We went recently to the Elkhart RV Museum in Northern Indiana. If you haven't been to that and you are a vintage camper geek like we are, it's a really cool museum. I'll post a few little videos at the end if you want to kind of scan through some of that. You can. I may post a full video later. But when we were there, they have one of these, and I noticed that ours had this kind of flashing. It was pretty much just flashing. It's what's in that bucket. And it was around the border, but I noticed that camper was all rotted right here. So I thought, So I came back home and immediately ripped it out. And that's what we have. There's a little corner bracket here. I'll show you over here. I just pulled on that one and just pulled it straight out. This little guy. And that one's pretty loose. But the whole thing is rotted underneath. So all of this has to come out and get redone. Yeehaw. We are super excited to be working on it. Eventually this top will come off. We have taken out the upper cabinets. After I saw the shoddy work and the cover up right here, I certainly didn't want to go with that. I want to just get up in there and see kind of what the work was done before. Yeah, and it's a good thing we took it off, because there's rodent poop along the side there. And then the electrical wire in this 5-foot section has 7 splices between this bin and that back one. So definitely glad we kind of took that apart and just started over. So whoever kind of started the restoration really either got discouraged with it and just quit, or didn't know what they were doing. Somebody did start, because there are replacement sections here. And then I think they probably just gave up, realized it was too much to tackle, and didn't want to take it apart. But I am going to take it apart and do it the right way, and then we'll put it all back together. These little side flaps will have to get taken out. Some of the campers have them, some of them don't. The one up at the RV Museum has something a little different than this, but I have seen them with this style. But what happens when the roof cranks down, these fold up. So see this, how far that sticks out, that big screw right there? Yeah, so it's gonna hit the cabinet. So we gotta do something different there. Not even sure why that's there. And I just stepped on this floor. I don't know if you heard it crunch or not. I think I could probably go right through right there. And then I'll have to dispose of this. I'm sure this linoleum is asbestos based. So we'll have to wear proper attire and get rid of that. I'd love to find something similar. If anybody knows of a company that sells similar stuff, I'm going to kind of Google it and see if I can find some stuff that's close to that. But this is where we are. I just took the cabinet top off, the countertop, and it's in pretty decent shape. It's definitely reusable. I should be able to just clean it up, even if it's sun faded a little bit. It's got a little bit of punkiness there where the edge of the sink is, but that's kind of to be expected on these old campers. I think it might clean up. It kind of had a blue. And the one that's up at the Camper Museum was exactly that same print, but it was kind of a peachy pink color. So that's definitely an original piece. But all the rot is just... And then this piece actually bows out. I don't know if you can see that in camera or not, but the fiberglass is actually cracked right here. Because this bolt rusted and then just kind of expanded, and that piece is broken. So then it just kind of pushed out on the fiberglass. So I'm going to try to get this cabinet out of here today in the fridge, and we'll start ripping up flooring. The flooring in the middle appears to be fine. This section here is obviously lower on the trailer, so it's rotted, and it's where the sink was too. The sink and a corner. That camper up at the museum, I noticed all the corners are rotted. They look just like this. And they'd slapped a big fancy paint job on it and just covered up all the rot. And the back bed, I started taking pieces of it off. Took this top trim piece off, and one bite at a time, just like that old guy. And no, I haven't given up on Pickle. Still working on Pickle. But for right now, we'll share this so the people at the camper rally can keep up on it. Cabinet has to come out because the floor has to be redone, and these sections right here have to be re-glassed. So in order for me to do that well, I want to just pull everything out, get it out of my way so I can work both sides of the fiberglass, because it's going to need work on both sides to strengthen it back up. And the top is held on by, I think, 4 bolts, 4 big bolts on each side. And so I think we'll just cable it up and then probably pull the camper forward, drop the top down. We can work on both pieces at the same time. Yeah, the fridge came out fairly easy. I think we know where the mice were living, or at least where a few of them were. And I don't know that this icebox is reusable. I guess I'll have to see if it will hold water, because we certainly don't want it just leaking down into the floor. It's actually not a fridge, it's just an icebox. No electric to it. But it's fairly clean inside, and I could always re-weld that bottom panel. But probably what I will be able to do if we decide to use this one is we can probably clean this out, and I've got a really good marine caulk we could put in there. But it's super light, it's not heavy at all. So I'm sure that that's why they used it as the replacement one when the other one got taken out or whatever. This would have had a white, and if I could find one, I would rather put that in, but it had a white enamel icebox that the lid folded down this way. Ironically enough, the trailer at the RV museum was also missing the icebox, so I wonder what the deal was with that. But all of them I've ever seen, they were either white or like a peachy pink color, and the lid folded down. It was a horizontal opening rather than a vertical opening. And I don't like that one, because if it's in there, the way it was in was the door opened this way. So if I just want to reach in and grab a cold beverage, I can't just reach in and do that. It would be nicer if it opened this way. So maybe we could put it in, I don't know, the opposite way, and then the drain's on the wrong side. It doesn't drain properly, but maybe we can change the door. You know, just make the door open the other way. It'd be nice if we could do something a little different right there. But the cabinet feels like it's loose pretty much, except for over here. So I'm gonna have to take this little trim piece out, but it feels like we're pretty well ready to come out, except for right there. And maybe a little bit of rot holding us in. But yeah, let me get that piece out and we'll see if we can get this cabinet out of here. And the floor is I can see daylight in a couple places, so I know the floor is shot up here. And that's why this cabinet sat in the trailer. It's not as obvious now that the countertop's off, but the whole cabinet leans forward. I don't know if you can see that or not. It's because the floor is completely gone up there. Yeah. The fiberglass shell's pretty good though. The top is decent. You know, got new tires. Trying to point out all the things that are not terrible. All right, let's get this out of here. The cabinet is all out. It's loose. I just can't lift it out by myself because it can't go out the door. It has to come out right here. And this line, I've got to get that line worked through the floor there. Just a water line that goes to this tank up front. This is your water tank. A 15-gallon water tank up front. I don't know that we'll actually use that, but it's there. There's no real way to coat it, you know, because you can't do it like a gas tank and rotate it. It's not like I can rotate the whole trailer. So I don't know that I'd want to put a coating in there anyway. Just bleach it and use it for hand washing only and not for drinking. So it goes directly in right there. Could probably just undo that fitting down there. A lot of work. Well, the top is disconnected, although it's not up as high as we'd like for it to be. That's where it's going to sit for right now. And without pressure on these arms, they won't go down. Didn't think that through very well, did we? Aaron's kind of scooped out the rat's nest and all of that out of here. We're going to vacuum in here and kind of get some of this cleaned out. Oh, that's a pulley cover. Probably should keep that. But it is starting to kind of come apart now, at least. Worst thing about campers, the way that they build them, they build everything around them, and so they're kind of hard to take apart. But a piece of angle will have to come out too when we replace the floor. Just get this all vacuumed out. See what we're looking at. We pretty much know, right? Rot, rot, and more rot. But yeah, the top is free. You have to tie it back though, because the wind's gonna catch it. But now once we kind of get it all apart, we can pull the trailer out, drop the top down, and work on it. It only has 4 bolts. Kind of like a VW engine. Only 4 bolts holding it on. It's really not that heavy, it's just awkward. So, get it swept out and go from there. The beds are both out. Kitchen cabinet is out. Oh, it gets worse, trust me. And then down here, I don't know, I can't reach it. This is just, I think somebody just screwed in a piece of like roofing sheet or something to the bottom. You cannot stand on that, it is falling apart. And then as this backboard was coming out, there was a nice little bee nest or hornet nest or something built up in there, so we had to take it off and clean all that out. The drawer's out. That's the little back bed, and it just goes across on these rollers. Kind of a neat design. So that just rolls in, and then there is a pole that comes in here, has a stopper in it, keeps it from getting pulled out all the way, but lovely, huh? Oh, it gets worse. It gets worse. It is, the whole thing has to come apart, unfortunately. But it's worth saving, I think. Not too many of these kicking around. I mean, how many of them have you ever seen at a campground? I personally have never seen any at a campground. Gone up to the museum and saw the one up there, but yeah, this right here is super spongy. And I just don't know how many little shards of pieces of cabinet we're going to even be able to reuse or save. It's, the further we dig in, the worse it gets. One interesting thing though, so most of them, let me walk out here, most of them I've seen, they sit pretty low. So most of them I've seen them, like the tire would be, or the camper would be where the top of my hand is to the wheel, in relation to the wheel. And I noticed when we picked this one up, it looked to me like it sat high. And I thought, man, did I just order the wrong tire, or what's going on? Well, I got under the one at the museum and looked at it, and I'll put a picture of its axles in here. The plate is welded to the axle, so rather than the leaf being under the axle, it's on top, which is kind of weird. The other weird thing is there's a dip in the frame on both sides right there. I don't know if that's for structure or they use it to frame off something else. You'd think the axle would kind of run up there. But if I flip this and put it under, that's going to drop this wheel back into the wheel well. You can't really see. Got plenty of space up there, so it's going to drop the wheel kind of in the wheel well where it is supposed to be. Let me go on this side, maybe you can see. You got plenty of room up here in the wheel well. I mean, you're going to get closer and closer as you go up to this, but I mean, we're almost mid-tire right now. We've got a good, probably 3 inches on each side. But yeah, there's plenty of room up here, so that'll be low on the list, but definitely need to put a plate under that leaf and get some longer U-bolts. That is the weirdest setup. That cannot be factory. Just bizarre. Yeah, tube framing coming off the tongue. Bolted and welded to the frame. And that's the way the one up at the museum was too, so I think that is definitely factory. Well, it is the next day. Worked on it well into the evening yesterday and got it tore down this far. Unfortunately, which is pretty much what I feared, the tire wells are glassed in. So they are fiberglassed. And so when you go to take this section off, like you've got this build over here, they're glassed in. So all the fiberglass comes up and kind of wraps up right there, which means that is completely structural. So as we started to tear the side apart and tear that wheel well out, you can see right here, got fiberglass all the way around. So those are a real royal pain to get apart, but they gotta come apart because the wood up in here is all rotted. You can't just leave that in there, so it's gotta come apart. Back here, framing section piece in the very back, I'll have to redo. It is very far gone, so I don't want to leave that. Got it this far down, might as well weld in a new piece while we're at it. This piece here, not structure or not factory, so I'll probably take that out. I might put something in there that'll hold allow a spare tire to mount back here. Not sure about that. And I don't know how far I'm gonna come in. There was a piece of angle bolted here, and you can see this piece is pretty far gone. So I may take it back all the way to the T. So this section back here may get totally rebuilt. I mean, I think I'm gonna run a piece of angle from here over. This is just fiberglass. Again, the flooring was glassed in. I managed to separate most of that. And it's just epoxy all the way up to here. You can see where the actual fiberglass fabric kind of ends. So I'll put this on. I'm not filming much while we're doing it because we're trying to wear masks and it's just hard to talk and wear a mask the whole time while you're working on it. Well, I have played around with a couple of different axle settings and I'm kind of slow sometimes. Sometimes I look at myself and I think, Mars, it was so obvious. It's so obvious. I was laying in bed a couple nights ago and it just smacks me. So I had mentioned that there's a notch in the frame here and here. And I said, you know, that had to be for an axle, but with the leaf spring on, you know, we're 12 inches from that notch and there's no way the trailer's gonna move, especially with these leaf springs on, is gonna move that much, so that they needed to kind of tub that out. And it doesn't line up with the wheel well anyway. So I was like, that is just bizarre. Those of you that know are laughing at me right now, and I cannot believe that it didn't hit me. I'm gonna go to the other side so you can see where that notch hits on the fender, or on the wheel well, sorry. I guess it's not really a fender. So you can see, yeah, maybe you can. Get my camera down there. Ah! Where that notch is for the axle, right there, is not in the middle of our wheel well. So I've got the notches here, the middle's over here, so yeah, what's up with that? And then I noticed that there are these little loops on top of the axle. And I'm making all these comments out loud, by the way. And nobody's catching it. Not my dad. He was over here one night. Aaron didn't say anything. There are these little pockets. And the axle is angled over. Yeah. Like I said, some nights when I haven't had sleep, some days when I haven't had sleep, I'm a little slow. This had a torsion axle on it. The leaf springs are not factory. That explains why it does not sit correctly. So what would happen is this axle, the bent out part, would actually sit horizontally, and there would have been a torsion bar that came down, and in this case had essentially like a coilover spring that went over the axle and went into those little pockets. So the end of the spring went into that little pocket there. And then there was an apparatus that bolted up to the floor of the trailer, and it would allow this axle to flex. Now, they sell them now as a complete unit. They do not sell this as a reproduction, but I did find a set on Facebook, so I can show you a picture of what it's supposed to have. But I do not have the original one. And then someone's gone in and welded this plate on there to get this leaf to bolt up. And then they've drilled holes and bolted it to the frame. So we got none of the original guts that should have gone on here. So here's what we're going to do for now. We're going to put this axle back like it was when we kind of started. And that's how we're going to tow it to the Vintage Camper Rally. That's how we're going to do it for right now, because I don't have time. We are really, really tight on time. I don't have time to build anything for this. But what I'm planning to do, and it was kind of shaped, let's see. So the axle sat back here, the notches right there. So the straight part of the axle sat right here, and then this arm kicked out this way. So there was basically like a, if I can, make like a Pac-Man sign, like a greater than sign here. And what would happen, it would allow it to flex, allow that axle to flex. It actually, the ones they sell now work almost identical to a Beetle Volkswagen torsion tube or Beetle front end. So it's kind of a unique setup that we're dealing with here. It's actually pretty common on boat trailers and like jet skis and things like that. I don't know why it didn't hit me, because I had seen those before, and I was just, like I said, just slow to come to the conclusion. But I'll put a picture in of what it would have had and show you kind of how it hooked up here. And I'll eventually go to something like that. I'll probably build some kind of airbag system so that we can't drop it when we get into the campground. If we want to make it lower or whatever, we can change it. But yeah. A little slow on that one, Mars. A little slow. Some days are better than others. The boxes, where the beds were, we are not going to take this side out. We're going to build it one side at a time because it really weakens the structure. So I'm going to leave that one in for now. We'll build this side that we've partially ripped out. Got to finish ripping it out the rest of the way. I had to get some new respirator filters for my respirator. Thank you, Amazon. But yeah, so we're not going to flip that currently. We're going to put it back like it was, bolt everything back up, and put the wheels back on. And that would definitely drop it about 6 inches. But part of the reason you see these trailers and they're slammed, they look like they're slammed, I'll put a picture in right here to show you what I'm talking about, is because those springs that were factory are broke. Ironically enough, the one at the museum also had leaf springs put in it, but they were busted out of the frame, so it wasn't quite as good a setup as we had here. So yeah, definitely was a problem, but it was throwing me too because the one at the RV museum was set up just like ours pretty much. So yeah, that's part of the problem with building a trailer that nobody else has. It's just stuff like that's going to happen through the whole thing. And the guy that, quote unquote, or gal that quote unquote started the restoration, look at this little gem. We find it. So apparently all the cables had been replaced, and they don't look new to me, but it does look like somebody's gone in and put some hardware and things in there. Yeah, had redone all the cabling, redone all of that. And the actual mechanism that ran it is right here. I don't think that's ever been oiled. So this was behind the kitchen cabinet, so they couldn't get to it. But yeah, all that's got to be redone. And another thing we noticed, if you come over here, Can't see it real well right now. The sun coming through. The bar that actually lifts the arm kind of goes. That's because this board over here is completely rotted to the point it's not even sitting in the proper place. See if I can move it without dumping the trailer. I'm moving the whole thing. So the trailer is super tippy right now. Don't have any wheels on it. I do have a couple jack stands and a jack in the middle, but I wouldn't want to be standing in it right now. So in the next couple days, I'm going to repair these big holes that are up in the fiberglass. That one's like bondoed through on the outside. You got these big holes up here. I got to deal with all that. And that happened because this tongue on this is so short. Somebody was driving it that didn't know what they were doing or wasn't paying attention or something. It's real easy to jackknife it. I backed it into the carport myself, and I'm decent with the trailer, and I had to keep a very sharp eye on it. It turns on a dime, and when it starts to turn, your truck's already into the side of it. You just gotta keep it where you want it at all times. Can't let it get away from you. Looks like somebody's tried to repair. So I have to grind off all the previous repairs and start on that. But hey, at least when we get done, it'll be completely new. It'll be a brand new trailer. This is all fiberglass here. So all this is, well, you can see where the glass fabric ends. The rest of it's just the epoxy resin, mostly. So all of that has to go back in. You can also see this tub. Maybe you can. The tub, you're gonna be able to tell, is lower here than that crossbar. So the whole thing is gonna have to be really jacked up and squared up before we bolt anything down permanently. It's starting to get really floppy and flexible, so we're gonna have to be really aware that things need to go back in the right place. You can see I don't really want to take the wheel well out, but it's completely rotted, so it has to come out, unfortunately. And we're starting to get into, the reason we stopped on this one over here is because this molded section. I'm gonna have to get a saw in there that's really can get into a tight spot and remove that just little bits at a time, because I don't want to tear up that body line. So I definitely don't want to get into this. And that's what was starting to happen here. So it's, it's going to be brand new when we're done. The only thing that I'm not planning on taking off is the front tank. I think we can flush it. It's very clean inside. I put a little micro camera inside. It's very clean. And the fiberglass does not appear to be getting fibrous, where the resin has come off of it. It's not exposed to the sun and baked in the UV, so it should be in pretty good shape. So that's where we are going to leave this one off. It was kind of a long, lengthy video on something you don't really care about, but it's documentation for me in the future when I'm going, where does that go? I don't remember where this goes. Poor carport, though. I couldn't work on poor Pickle if I wanted to. Can't even get to him. God. Gotta get this place cleaned up. Land Rover's just back there holding cushions. Thanks, Raggedy, for holding my cushions for me. Yeah. Good times, good times. Well, thanks, everybody. I appreciate it. We'll see you on the next one. Hopefully we've got this thing starting to be rebuilt back together. See you next time. So I am inside the Hille Ranger Camper here at the Elkhart RV Museum with permission. I did not come in here without permission. It is actually roped off. Told them I was restoring one, and I wanted to pop in here to take a peek at how everything attaches. I don't like the way the corners, go over here so that light's not blinding us. The corners just kind of flop. don't like that. I have to come up with a different plan there. It looks like there's a rope maybe that ties. Yeah, I have to come up with something different there. I don't like that. And unfortunately, I can't see how the canvas attaches because they've got these beds worked in here that fold. These bunk beds. This is a Ranger camper that sleeps 5. But the cubbies are like ours. They've put a table in right here, which is kind of a nice use of that space. It's missing the fridge, but there is a cutting board that pulls out right there. Just got one window up front. And again, these just kind of flap, just kind of tuck in, I guess. It's kind of weird. Little key holder. And above the door, that one just snaps across the top. Interesting. Let me sneak out here and get some of the door. So here's the door. There's just a pole. Goes in. Door latch. There's a check strap on the door. We're gonna put a VW one there. Like a VW bus check strap. Just a pocket sewn, and it looks like this ends not quite to the edge. It's just hinged. This one doesn't have the aluminum support. Wonder if they took them out when they put these in. That is weird. There's no way I would trust the weight of anyone on that. There's like a support rod welded onto this one. So I think there was a fridge here originally. There's that table. That's a nice use of that space. So it looks like it ends about 5 inches. Feels like it's just one piece. So the flap just overlaps, doesn't snap or anything. So it looks like that inner one attaches with the rail, and then this flap is the one that buttons down. So it's got like a double flap. This seam right here. Yeah. That's really interesting. There's a snap there so they don't have the bed all the way out. Zipper goes straight. It's not all the way out. don't think this would travel very well down the road. Both leaf springs, ironically enough, are disconnected. Not sure what's going on with that. Those camper jacks are kind of interesting. It does have the tube frame like ours. You know they just hate having people like me come in here. I wonder what that was for. It's been fiberglassed in. It looks to be about the same condition of ours. What that was. Wonder what that does. Looks like some kind of a lock or something, doesn't it? The trailer at the museum had a little lever that came out right there, and I'm wondering if that wasn't what it was for. Bet you that's a lock. Looks like it went in right there. Huh. Yeah, I bet that's a lock. So that when it comes down, yeah, I'm gonna have to research that. The patent for this is online, so I should be able to find that information. I bet you there was something that came out, a little lever came out right here. It had a couple of other holes up here too, but I think those were aftermarket. That piece looked like it was legit.